Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I'm Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 147 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. The Ring franchise is arguably one of the biggest horror franchises to come out of Japan, easily, with multiple sequels and spin-offs, and a decanonized sequel that spawned its own franchise. Yes, they made a sequel to Ring, and then go, this sucks, let's go back and make a true sequel. Yeah. And then that failed sequel just spun off this whole other, was it Spiral, I believe?
Yeah. It was. Supposedly they filmed it back to back with the first movie, and it was supposed to be its sequel. But the Ring, the first one, did really well, and they, I guess, didn't feel good about releasing Spirals, which is supposed to, I don't know what happened. But they released the movie, but they decanonized it, and so it's not the official Ring timeline. It had, like, I think 2 more sequels.
Right.
So there's it's weird.
Also,
so Ring 2 is made by the same guy.
Which I believe Spirals was still based on the book, wasn't it?
Yeah, supposedly.
So obviously it wasn't good enough for that, so they just made something new.
Right.
But let's sit back and pop in that mysterious and mystery VHS tape that you just have at your cabin that you're renting, among all the great things like 48 Hours to watch. I'll go with the unlabeled tape, please.
Right. I mean, like, I don't know if I'd do that because, I'm always scared that it's going to be somebody's like homemade porn or something. Like, I don't want to see that. Maybe, or it's going to be something boring, like, some 4-year-old kids like T-ball game or some bullshit like that. That's why I don't like. No, unlabeled. Nope.
Yeah, we'll get into that whole mess of it all here, but we'll start off with Ring, which was really just called Ring in Japan, but it only became Ringu when it was released in America. That was
weird to me. Yeah, I've seen most of the time it's still called Ring. But yeah, there is sometimes where that says Ringu. I don't know why. But like the official release was Ring.
Yep.
Yeah, Ringu is like, when I see like the 4K like re-release was called Ringu, but I didn't see Ringu anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just only in North America. We just did that. So we can't have the Ring because we're going to have the Ring. So Ringu, sure, that sounds Japanese. Right.
Another, just a quick aside here. I know I've seen the American version of this, at least the American first one. I don't think I saw the second one. I might be wrong. I don't know. I don't think I do. I know I saw the first one. Mm-hmm. But the Ring, the American one, actually has like symbolism into what the Ring is, like the visual picture of Ring, right?
Yep.
This one doesn't.
No.
So like, why is it called Ring?
I don't know.
I was sitting here trying to figure it out. Like, okay, that was a thing they added in the American one. So why is it called Ring? What I got out of it was like, maybe because you get the call after you watch it. That's what the Ring is,
as opposed to the well.
Right. Because there's no references to like the Ring, or there's no like, they don't zoom in on that to kind of show you like, hey, look, this is the visual gag of the Ring, like they do in the American one.
Right.
And this one, there's nothing. It's just called Ring. There's no explanation as to why. So that's the only thing I can think of is like, after you watch the tape, the phone rings. That's part of the whole story. So I think that might be where Ring comes from. I don't know. I was thinking about it the whole time.
Well, I never thought of it that way.
I was just like, where the fuck is Ring from? I don't get it.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's get into this Ring from 1998. Like I said, preface this right now. If you've seen the American one, you've seen the Japanese one. Just this is Japanese, essentially. That's gonna be our kind of recap, I feel, for almost the American one. But anyway, we have a classic slasher opening with this movie where you have 2 people, sleeping over, discussing watching this cursed videotape, and I'm saying right now, once again, they immediately go, this is all over the news immediately, that this is a cursed thing, that people know all about it. But 2 people talking about it, it's like, yeah, I was out with my friends and we're at the cabin and we watched this tape, and it just had disturbing images, and we just got a phone call, and essentially says, you're going to die in 7 days. And he's like, ah, ha, ha, no, 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 that's not true. And she's kind of like pretends like she's gonna watch it, and then like the phone rings. It's her mom. Like, ah, ha, you scared us. Whew. And her friend kind of goes upstairs to kind of wash up for the night, and the TV turns on, and well, the friend dies. Cold open to The Ring. Like I said, very classic to a slasher thing. So essentially, we find out during this girl's death, her funeral, and that we have a journalist kind of looking at the this death. Is like, okay, all three of her friends died at the same time.
Yeah,
And
same day, same time, same way.
With like their jaw kind of like pried open a little bit. I'll say right now, the American one, the jaw's open a hell of a lot more than the Japanese one, but still, it's an unnerving scene.
Yeah, they're like, dying in obvious terror.
Right. Yeah.
And also the journalist is the girl's aunt.
Yes.
So she's not just some random journalist. She does have like familial access to this case, and that's why she gets invested.
Yeah, and that's why she tells her son to go sit with essentially his grandfather at the funeral while she kind of figures out what's going on there, and she finds essentially the tape. Oh, what she thought of the tape, right? And then I think she ends up going to the cabin. She's able to piece together where they were, and this is where we have that scene of like, go rent these movies, and like, you'll know it when you see it. It's the unmarked one. The rest of them are clearly labeled, sometimes in English on that shelving that he has there.
Well, and a lot of Japanese is they have like English titles.
Yeah,
but
like I said, 48 hours stuck out to me right when I saw it. So anyway, she takes the tape and she watches it, so we actually then get to see what the imagery is, and it's just essentially a woman kind of combing her hair with mirrors floating to another figure, the ocean, a guy with a bag over his head, and essentially then the look up at a guy's face in a ring, essentially, and then she gets a phone call saying that she's going to die in 7 days. Cool. She goes to her ex-husband and go, this is messed up. Can you figure out what is going on here? Because there's a lot of clues in here that I just don't understand.
Now, the reason she goes to him, it's her ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason she goes to him is because supposedly he's psychic.
Yeah.
He has some kind of psychic ability. They don't explain what his power is, but that's why she goes to him, because it's like a supernatural thing, and he has like a connection to the supernatural world.
A lot of people in these three movies do.
Yeah, it was very like, I would be like, why would you go to your ex-husband first? Like, but that's why.
It makes more sense in the American one that he is able to see if the tape's real and piece it together versus just psychic.
Right. Well, again, it might just be a cultural thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, to me, I was like, why? Like, why would you go to your ex-husband with this first? Like, you are a reporter. You have like a lot of resources. You could be asking people for questioning. Why are you going to your ex-husband first? And then they kind of alluded to like, oh, he's got psychic powers. I'm like, really? But they don't explain it. And he never uses them. But he's like supposedly tapped into the ghost world or something.
Sure. But he's also able to figure out that like there's a certain dialect that's being spoken that they just don't know where it's from, trying to figure it out there because they're just trying to piece this together. And her son ends up watching the tape because someone pressured him to do it. So good job, with the tape.
Someone being the ghost of the dead niece.
Yes. Somehow, yeah, she's pressuring him, which is interesting, which is, I'd say, rare that we're getting ghosts that aren't the main person in this movie.
Yeah, we never see that ghost at all. That's just what he says.
Yeah. But she makes a copy of the tape for her ex-husband. He's kind of researching it, and he's kind of very alluded to that he's kind of sleeping with one of his students.
Yeah, it's like weird. She's like acting like his like assistant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a cultural thing. I have no idea. But yeah, it just seemed like they were very like it was a very like business transaction, but there was also seemed like there was more to it.
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah, because the assistant seemed really upset with the ex-wife coming back around. That's really the only inkling you have, and then her messing with his presentation.
Right.
So essentially they find out through, hard, nose to the grindstone research that this woman that was in the tape, she was like a seer and was making predictions. She did like predictions for some doctor, and essentially she was called the witch by everyone there because she kept getting everything correct. And then you can also find out that there was, through that, there's a young daughter, Sadako. I'll be close enough, right? And
Sadako, yeah.
Yeah, Sadako. And essentially that she was like killed and thrown into the well, but they're like, oh, we have to go to Itsu. Sure. And they eventually make their way back to this cabin that this is all taking place and finds someone trapped inside the well, and somehow she recorded herself onto a tape and she's able to spread that way. But they find that there's the main woman has like hours left, and they eventually find the well at the end of the tape, and they start like emptying it bucket by bucket. Now, why did the strong man go into the well to fill the buckets of water while the woman was having struggles?
Yeah, I was
all the
kind of
water
wondering
up?
that myself. I'm like, wow, that's like kind of shitty. I was like, maybe he really doesn't like her.
It's also 1998. I'm pretty sure there's a water pump they could just thrown in there too, and just
Well,
pumped
they
it
probably
out.
didn't think that far ahead.
So eventually, they get down there. They eventually switch spots, and she finds the corpse down there, and they kind of just like hug it out. But they also find out that she's like, oh man, she was like alive. Her fingertips were there, and she's like alive. Yeah, and they kind of hug it out, and then they make it. She makes it past her 7 days. She goes, huh, weird. And then she gets back. Everything seems happy.
Well,
And
it's heavily implied that because she like hugged the corpse,
that the
that
curse is broken.
supposedly the curse was broken, right?
Right. But then, because the next person that we saw to watch tape is her ex-husband. He dead.
Right.
She comes out of the TV and kills him, and she finds out like, oh shit, what do we do about this? Like, what did I do different? What did I do different? And luckily, she put a sticker that says copy on the tape, or she would never figure it out.
Well, yeah, they do say it in the beginning, but
Yeah.
the kind of I do like that part. They say in when the girls the school girls are going over the whole
Once again,
plan.
spot on with the curse.
Right, yeah, the whole they're explaining the curse. They're like, yeah, you watch the tape, you get a phone call right afterwards saying you're gonna die in 7 days, and then you'll die in exactly the time you watch the tape in 7 days.
Yeah.
He's like, but the only way to not kill yourself is you have to make a copy of the tape and make someone else watch it.
Essentially, you have to pass the curse.
Right. And then you'll be saved, and then the person you make watch it, now they're have the curse. And then we can keep going with it. But as soon as somebody doesn't show it to someone else, they'll die 7 days are up. So the ex-husband dies when his 7 days are up because she copied it and showed it to him. She didn't break the curse at all.
No.
Just because they found the body, it did not break the curse. So he still died.
And they go, oh man, my son needs to do that too. Hey, Dad.
Yeah, and then the movie just ends. It's like a very odd ending. I'm like, what the fuck kind of ending was that?
Yeah, she's like, essentially, my dad's old. He could die for my son, right? All right, cool. They drive off.
Why don't you just keep like she works at a fucking they get into this in the second one.
They do.
I'm like, she works at a fucking place. I'm like, all she has to do is tell the people the truth and be like, hey, you guys want to watch this thing? And then just keep passing it along and we can do a story about it. Like, I'm sure they'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
Whatever. We get into that in the second one.
Yeah. So Fiend, they're driving off to go kill her dad.
Right.
Curse her dad. End the movie. I had seen this. Like I said, I watched this one along with the American one, because I think when the American Ring came out on DVD in the video store, they had Ringu as well, and sometimes they don't. People don't put the DVDs in the right spot, so I don't know if it was on purpose or not. But I remember watching these back to back and going, "Yeah, man, they are just like a legit copy of each other." And I think Japanese one obviously hits differently. It's not as jump scary, and it's not as Americanized of it, but still, as we discussed for the past month now, the history, the lore, and the belief that exists behind these curses in Japan is still interesting to me. I believe this is your first time seeing this, correct?
This one, yeah. I did. I saw the American one. I believe like when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not see any of the Japanese one.
I mean, so what was your first thoughts on this?
I don't remember the American one. the only thing I remember the basic storyline, and I was just waiting for like the ring that never happened. I'm like, why is it called Ring? I had to do some thinking about it, some head scratching before that's what I came up with. But that was about it. I mean, other than that, it's like I don't remember enough about the American one to really spoil this one. So it was a fun ride.
Okay. Do you want to go first with your highlights then?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, this is like the golden age of VHS, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, DVD was out, but like DVD was like really expensive and nobody had any players in the late 90s.
$30 a DVD.
Right, yeah. So it was like, they were around, obviously, but it was when like CDs first came out, Like, oh yeah, they're great, but like nobody could afford them.
$25 a CD.
Right, yeah, nobody could afford them, so everybody was still buying cassettes. So like, yeah, the new thing was out, but like nobody used it yet. So like in the late 90s was still peak VHS era. So yeah, and this is a perfect film to come out in the VHS era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays Ryuji, the ex-husband, he's awesome. he's been in a ton of stuff, and I love him as an actor. He was just recently in Shogun. I don't know if you saw that. But he's a great actor, and it's fun seeing him. I did not expect to see him because he doesn't show up until like 30 minutes in.
He's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, yeah.
I don't think so, but I would not put that at the height of his filmmaking ability. I think his crossover like big American hit was The Last Samurai. That Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
That was the first one. That was the first like American like English speaking film that he was in.
Oh, he wasn't. Yeah, he was Hanzo in the Mortal Kombat. He was also Army of the Dead. Interesting.
Oh, okay. I mean, I wouldn't call those highlights of his career.
No.
But again, he was just in Shogun, like two like very large, huge critical praise. So he's a great actor. It was fun seeing him, and I didn't expect to see him. He was fun. And again, there was an interesting twist there, right? They really heavily implied like, oh, the curse is over, and it's like pretty close to the end of the film.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was kind of lame. They like resolved the whole thing. I knew it wasn't real because like right after she like hugged him and her time was up, they made a point to like say, oh, we won't know for sure until my time hits tomorrow. I'm like, he's gonna fucking die.
Yep.
Like, so I saw it coming, but like, it was a fun twist anyway. Because I was, then he died. I'm like, okay, so what the fuck? Everybody had to hug the corpse? Like, I'm like, what happened? And I totally forgot about the making a copy thing. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because the girls say it in the beginning and they never repeat that. Mm-hmm. Like American films are horrible with that, where they'll repeat the shit like a million times, so there's no way you can forget it.
Right.
But this one was a little bit more subtle, to where they only said it once in the beginning, and it was like schoolgirls telling the curse story, right? So you kind of like take it all with a grain of salt. But no, they turned out to be, like you said, dead on. Yeah.
Every time in these movies, the schoolgirls are spot on with their curses and knowledge of it.
But it was a fun twist. Again, I hadn't seen the American Ring in long enough that it was like I didn't see the twist coming. So it was good. It was actually enjoyable. That's all I got.
Yeah, like I said, I just find it funny that they said that they're spot on every time, which is hilarious because they give it away at the very beginning of the movie every time so far that we've watched this happen. Which is, I think kind of goes into that belief system that, our schoolyard rumors are not close to true. We talked about them growing up.
Yeah. And if you hear Americans talking about shit, they're like almost 90% wrong almost all the time.
Yeah. And, that VHS library, like I said, there's the Birds was on there, 40 Hours was on there. I almost paused and started taking it all down. And, like in the bottom left corner, like, we'll take that blank copy stuff. Like, no, but okay. Yeah, and this, like I said, this with the cold open with that twist, it's interesting to see the cinema do that because, like I said, I consider that to be more of an American horror trope. But it's interesting to see Japan do that too. So I enjoyed it. Like I said, I knew the twist was coming. I knew that we weren't going to be able to full house this and just hug it out and everything be okay. That's it. I'll roll my low points. Witch, kill her, bad. I think the tape is way too easily accessible to her young child and to anyone that wants to get their hands on it.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about that more when it gets to be my turn here, but I think there's reasons for that.
Yeah. It's just like, the ESP tests that they're so, what they said 30 years ago, so 1968, they're really just like to just murder everyone and stuff like that. And then now we have people, like entire people studying ESP, and it's okay, which is just interesting in that short amount of time frame, and be okay with it.
Well, I think they also kind of insinuated that the kind of island that they were from was a very like old timey traditional island. So,
yeah, which is fair. And there's the ending of her just going, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna come over. You need to help out my son. Cool, all right." And then drive off into like this ominous sunset to go curse her dad, which is a weird place to end it.
Yeah.
Those are my low points. How about yours?
That kid is neglected.
Oh yeah.
Like that poor kid. Like she just goes off and does whatever the hell she wants, and she calls him like, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna be home until late." Like the kid is like 8.
If that, like,
and he's like raising himself. Like she's all doing whatever the fuck he wants. The dad, it took a long time for him to even acknowledge that was his son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking like 45 minutes after he was introduced, we don't find out that it's his son.
Yeah.
Like he is absolutely uninterested in that fucking kid. Like he could not give a shit about what that kid is doing. And neither can she. That poor kid is like raising himself. So like, yeah, you say like, oh, he was watching the tape. Like, how do you get access to it? Like, dude, the kid's got nothing else to do. He's probably like wandering around. Oh, look, an unlabeled tape. Might as well watch it. Like he's sitting at home all by himself doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he said the dad does not care at all.
No.
They like assault that poor old man. He's just like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. And they like full on like tackle his ass to the ground and like they're like borderline like, so we start torturing him? Like literally, they're like there. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, fine, I'll tell you. It's like, wow, the dude's just the old guy. Calm down. And they don't like try to do any research on any of the other weird stuff in the video.
Yeah.
I remember that from the American one. Like there was all kinds of like hidden things that they found in the video to like give them clues and shit. This one,
the lighthouse, the
this one, there's like people like dying on the ground, like it's a fucking nuclear test. There's a guy with a bag on his head. There's like all this other shit, and all they ever talk about is the lady and the girl. That's it. Yep. They don't talk about any other part of it.
No.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why don't you look into that shit? That's all I got.
Okay. So our out-ofs this week are unlabeled VHS tapes because they're all unlabeled VHS tapes. So, Salem, how many unlabeled VHS tapes out of 10 do you give The Ring from 1998?
This is a pretty good film, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, kept me going. It had a fun twist. You know, I think the acting was pretty good. You know, I mean, obviously it's all subtitled, but and like it was actually like, you know, decent. Like you could actually like, you know, and I like the fact that they were kind of like real people. You know, they weren't like trying to paint them up as like, oh, these are the protagonists and good people. No, they're all kind of shitty.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like it's kind of like a realistic portrayal of like how people really are. I did like that a lot. So I'll give this one an 8.
An
8 unlabeled VHS type set.
Yeah, I said I thoroughly enjoy the Japanese and the American Ring movies. I know a lot of people, obviously the first one people really enjoy, the American one. I enjoyed all of them from what I can recall. This one is a standard, I think, for this story, and it does it kind of like what I expect Japanese horror to be now in the modern age. So I will give this one 9 unlabeled VHS tapes out of 10, just because it's just a portrayal of things that we don't really see that way. I don't feel like One Missed Call was close to this as being normal people.
No.
So, all right. So Salem, take us through The Ring 2 from 1999.
Okay. Now this one picks up like a week after the first one. So you know, yeah, the last we saw, like she ran off in the sunset, like trying to kill her dad, right, to save her son. We pick up the protagonist of this movie is now the assistant of the dead ex-husband.
Yep.
Which wasn't entirely clear to me at first.
No.
I'm watching it, I'm like, are we supposed to fucking know who this is? Like everybody's acting like she's a normal character. It's not the same person. Who is this supposed to be? And then like later, it was like 10 minutes in before they're like, oh, you're his assistant. I'm like, oh, that's who this is supposed to fucking be? What the hell? I don't know. Maybe I just didn't pick up on something. I don't know. But that was it. It took me a bit to figure out who it was. Anyway, so she is into it. She's trying to, you know, kind of figure out obviously what happened to, you know, the ex-husband who I guess she was dating. I mean,
Sure.
They don't really talk about it, but she seems kind of, you know, beat up about it. Anyway, so she, I guess, kind of sort of starts investigating what was going on. Pretty quickly, she like finds the body that came out of the well. And they make a point to say like, oh yeah, it looks like she only died a year or two ago. So like they're trying to like heavily suggest that she was somehow alive in the well for like 28 years.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, which I was like, okay, but it was a very weird thing to go into. Anyway, so after talking about you know, in the beginning of the first movie, there was like the one girl who was with the girl who died. And like multiple times in that first film, they talk about how, oh, she's crazy now. She's in a mental hospital. They say it like 3 times, and I always thought they were going to go visit her. They never did.
No.
So this time they finally do. So anyway, so she's investigating stuff. She, you know, is trying to like find out what's going on, where these people go, blah, blah, blah. So she ends up finding out that this girl is in the mental hospital. She tries to like talk to her, and it finds out that the doctors are like doing these weird experiments on her, and she's able to like somehow make the tape happen through her mind powers.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that right now is very heavily alluded to in this movie that if you watch tape, you get some ESP powers.
Right. And then none of this was mentioned in the first one. It was just a very basic. You watch it, you get a call. 7 weeks later, you die. There was no supernatural power stuff involved, other than like the ex-husband had psychic powers that they never used or mentioned.
Right.
Really, you know, that was it. There wasn't any real supernatural stuff other than like the lady that was dead in the well. You know, whatever. But yeah, this one, it's like. Yeah, the people who watch the tape are like somehow like dead inside or something. And it's very odd. So like they're saying like this girl, even though she didn't watch the tape herself, she was only like tangentially involved with the tape, but somehow it like took her over and she could like mentally project the tape. it's bizarre. This guy is doing all kinds of experiments, and it turns out that the guy doing the experiments was the guy that was the protege of the doctor who took Sadako away from the island.
Mm-hmm.
It's very convoluted, but you eventually figured this out. Anyway, so she gets all that kind of information, and then she goes back to trying to find the protagonist from the first film and her son. Which
they know the dad's dead. That's and she's
right, yeah,
disappeared.
yeah. Well, yeah, she's the assistant. That was like her boyfriend. So yeah, he's gone. But the mom and the kid have disappeared, and they don't know where they are. They do find the dad, the grandpa, I guess,
Yeah.
dead. So they know that he died. They find like the 2 VCRs at his house. So we're like, okay, they made copies, whatever. And she ends up like finding the kid in like a fucking grocery store. I don't know how fucking she found him. It was just like a scene that there's like cut to this scene where all of a sudden she like felt something and then looks over and it's like the kid is there and you think it's a ghost of the kid, but no, it's really the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then like immediately after that, she just finds the mom. It's like you thought it was going to be like this big thing to find him, but no, like you just kind of find him right away. And she talks to him and she tells him the whole story of like with the tape and what happened with, copying it and he died and blah, blah, blah. So she learns all this information. She like finds out more about the experiments. She goes to the police and the police are like, we're trying to like stop this whole thing. You got to tell us where the girl and the kid is. And she's like, okay. And she just tells him.
Yep.
And then they go and they get like arrested. And then, it's also implied that the kid, because he watched the tape but he survived, is now dead inside with psychic powers, just like the other girl was.
Uh-huh.
Again, totally different from the first film, but like this is what we're dealing with. So, they're like locked up in the police station. The assistant feels bad that she like locked him up in the police station, so she kind of like saves them, and the kid like gets his voice back and then uses his magic powers.
Yeah, she shines him.
Right. Yeah, she like somehow awakens his powers. And then he like knocks out the police officers and then him and his mom like run away. And then I was very unclear of what happened here. And I didn't figure out until later. But they basically like it cuts to a scene of him sitting on a curb looking at an arm with blood on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like, like clothing that you knew or anything like that. It was just like an arm that was a bunch of blood was coming out of it. And then it just kind of like cut to the next scene. And then the mom was just gone.
Yep.
They never say anything. And then
dead.
like, you don't find out until later in the film that the mom got hit by a car and died, but it happened off screen.
Yeah.
So, and they don't say it happened. So all of a sudden, like the assistant is now acting like this kid's mom. But like, I'm like, where the fuck did the mom go? Like, I literally had to go back in the synopsis and like read through it. I'm like, oh shit, that was her. Like,
yeah.
I didn't even know. I don't know. Did I miss something? Did you get that information?
I gather that's what they're gleaming at, but yeah, they don't outright say it. Like, oh, do you recognize her sleeve of her blouse? No.
Right. That's what I'm like. I was like later on, I'm like, did I miss something? Did she just fucking leave or what? Like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to read the synopsis like, oh, that was her dead. Like, I thought like maybe his powers misfired and he accidentally killed somebody. That's what it kind of felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause they're by a busy freeway and then she's dead.
Right. Yeah. It was just a very odd, weird. Anyway. So she ends up bringing the kid to the doctor guy that was like trying to get the tape, mentally projected. And he ends up doing all kinds of weird water experiments to like somehow they can like put magic in the water and it becomes more absorbent. I don't like what the fuck does that mean? Like, they don't explain what the fuck that means or what that is supposed to like. Well, okay, so water that is more absorbent. What is? What is that supposed to do?
He's a water bender now.
Right. I'm like, what is that? Like, so there's a cup of water. The kid like stares at the cup of water for a minute, and then he like puts a strip of paper in the water, and then the water like comes out of the cup through the paper.
Yes, because well water is different than seawater.
Right.
That's his
So
explanation.
I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what does that mean? Like, why would that have any significance? Like, who gives a shit if a table gets wet? Like, what is this supposed to mean? They never explain it.
Mm-hmm.
They just explain that like the water is somehow a battery that can hold Sadako's power.
Yes.
Whatever. So like the kid is now like a conduit to Sadako's power. So they get this idea of like if we get this huge pool of water
Mm-hmm.
and we have the kid like mentally project her into the water, like we can capture all of her curse energy and then all the curse will be gone.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm like, I was so fucking lost. I'm like, I don't know what is happening. Like, who wrote this fucking screenplay? It's all over the place. So anyway, so they put the kid in the chair. Somehow the assistant is in a chair too. I have no idea why. But they're like, oh, you need to watch the tape. Like, why the fuck would she need to watch the tape at this point? I didn't understand it. Anyway, so
I think it was to summon Sudoku.
okay. So like when she's supposed to make the phone call, she has to be nearby or something. I don't know. Whatever. So the kid like charges up the pool. The old man who is like kind of like the info dump guy. I left him out. He doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's there. He jumps in the water to go save her, and he drowns. The doctor, like I don't know, fucking electrocutes himself with a toaster or something with a bunch of wires connected to it.
Essentially, think of Firestarter and the telekinetic power they have over people. That's what happened to him to go jump into the pool.
Yeah, so he jumps in the pool and dies. Somehow, I guess the nurse died too. We don't really see that, but she died too because she was laying there dead.
Yep.
And then like there's this big like storm kind of thing to where they kind of like travel through fucking time, I guess. And like somehow like she ends up inside the fucking well
with the kid.
And then the kid's like, just drop me in the well, then you can leave and then we'll all be fine. And she's like, no. And so she like climbs out with the kid on her back, and then like the fucking dead body of Sadako like jumps up and like gets up in her face with their, I guess I left that part out too. They tried to make like a reenactment of like what her face looks like with clay on her real skull, apparently.
Yes, it's 1999, and instead of using pure models, clay is
clay on her real skull to like this is what she looked like, and it looks like seriously, it looks like a mask. It looks like a fucking like one of those blank masks. Yes. I'm like, you guys suck at your job. But anyway, so she pops up and she's like, why won't my powers affect you? And then she falls back in the water, and then she climbs out and moves.
Yep,
that's literally it.
We don't know why her powers won't affect her.
Nope.
But, yeah.
We don't get any explanation. We don't get anything. So now the kid and the assistant are alive, and I guess the assistant's going to be his new mom. Sure.
That's how the world works. If you find a kid in a grocery store, you have to then take them and raise them as your own.
Yeah, is that how it works? Like, oh yeah, I found this child. Their parent has died. Now I'm their parent. Mm-hmm. You inherit children.
You live through their trauma together, so therefore you become family.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it.
And the dad appears in the well.
Oh yeah, sorry. The dad appears and like tries to help them. I appreciate that he came back, but it was really pointless.
Give me her hatred.
Yeah. What? And like they don't even do that. So like what was the point? I don't know. There's a lot of things happening that don't have a point, but
the kid gave him his hatred. He grabbed onto him and he pooped himself.
Yeah. It's like, okay. So whatever, yeah. And then like they come back to the real world and they see everybody dead, and then that's it.
Yep. I mean, I think we kind of said our first thoughts and reactions to this.
Yeah, I was just like, I was having a hard time figuring out what the fuck was going on, because there's so many like twists and turns that don't make any fucking sense, and so many things that they're like assuming from the first film, even though these things were not mentioned at all in the first film. Like, what are you talking about? Like this magic power, and like somehow the people are dead inside when they watch the tape. Like everybody that watched the tape was totally fine until they died. And then in this film, it's like they're all dead inside, zombies.
Well, that's why they show up funny in pictures.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't understand what's happening. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, I'll go first with my highlights. Science to beat the curse. Why not? We'll use science to figure our ways out.
Pretty fucking loose science.
Yeah. Yeah, it's let's go pseudo silence. I think it's interesting that it was actually a sequel to Ring 2 because the first one just failed so catastrophically.
Yeah.
I thought that's pretty funny. I thought it was interesting they killed the mom. You don't expect that to happen. You survive the first one, and then like you leave a police station, and now truck hits you. I'm like, I think your kid's strong enough. You could probably stop the truck from hitting her, but didn't.
Right. But that's the thing that I had a big problem with is like she was the protagonist of the first film.
Yep.
Like if you're gonna kill her off, I mean, it's not like they killed her off in the beginning of this film, or even like halfway through. This is like this is like 2/3 of the way through the film. Yeah. She was a pretty major character, and they basically killed her off screen and then never mentioned her again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very bizarre for a major character to just like get cut out like that.
Yeah. Those are my highlights. How about yours?
I appreciate that Hiroyuki Sanda came back, even though it was only for like a minute, but it was fun that he came back. They finally followed up on the fucking lady that they talked about in the first film. Like, oh yeah, she's crazy. She's in the mental hospital. Like, oh, okay, better ignore her then. I'm like, you guys mentioned it 3 times. Why would you mention it 3 times and then not follow up on it? Like, that's not how movies work. You should go talk to the crazy person.
Yeah.
But this one they finally do. And it's goofy, but at least they do. At least they followed up on it. And again, I already talked about the mom dying. I'm just like, I was so lost that like, I would imagine a character like that would have like a death, like you can see the death, right? No, it's like it happens off screen. You don't even see her dead. You see her hand.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's it for my high points. We'll go to the low points here. Every psych ward needs a crazy lady with a baby doll, right?
Yes.
Every fucking psych ward that has women in it, there's always one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a rule, like a movie making rule, but it's there. That experiment, who knows what the fuck they were trying to do? I don't know what he was trying to do. This like he's trying to make water more absorbent, and then he was trying to like somehow make VHS tapes out of mind powers.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck. But yeah, there's multiple people that like don't watch the movie in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody really watches the movie. Like nobody puts a tape in and watches it at all. But somehow everybody's affected by it through this magic mind power stuff.
Because it's all being projected to them mentally at the end there. So
I was like, sure. What? Again, it was done. It was just like totally taking the the tape from the first one just out of context. Like it just removed it from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the goofy omen magic that the fucking kid had, like out of nowhere. Like where is this magic power coming from?
Right.
And again, they if they would have been like, oh, because my dad was a psychic power and now I inherited it, that would be more believable than the whole like, oh, just everybody gets affected by the tape has mind powers now.
Yeah.
Like that's just how they explained it. Like, okay, sure. The assistant, every time she looked at something scary, she had this like goofy look on her face. Like somebody just stuck a broom up her ass or something. Like she was just like, oh, like every single time she looked at a dead body, or every single time something like spooky happens, she's got the same goofy look. They like zoom in on her face and she goes like, oh, it's every time. It was hilarious. And again, how the fuck are you going to try to say, oh, she was alive in a well for 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, yeah, you got water. What the hell are you eating?
That's my number one on my low point.
What are you eating? And like, I'm pretty sure if you're like, up to your chin in water for years at a time, like bad things are going to happen to your body. Like, I'm pretty sure, you're going to die from many other things happening to you before 30 years or so.
Don't they say that if you stay submerged in water for like 2 weeks, your skin will fall off?
I don't know about falling off, but I'm sure it's not good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was just like, what? And then they never really did anything with that information.
Nope.
They like dropped that weird bombshell on you, and then they never ever follow up in any way. Like the only time she ever really shows up is when, like, again, she pops up and goes, "Hey, well, how come I'm not killing you?" And then she disappears. That's it.
Yep.
There's like a couple of scenes where like the old man is looking at her weird clay face, and then he throws her in the ocean. But like that's it. There's no other like participation for her being such a major part of the first one, although, albeit off screen. The second one she's really like not present. It's more about like the weird mind powers.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Oh yeah, for me, number one is alive for 30 years in a row. Bullshit. I'm calling flat out bullshit on that. You're not gonna lick the mold or lichen off it because you're in the dark, covered up. You're going to die. Period.
Yeah, a horrible way to die. I mean, I'm not debating that, but like, there's no way you could live for 28 years.
No. Watching the tape equals more psychic powers. Sure, movie. And I kind of goes into this and like it took the idea of like The Shining and Firestarter and all these other things that you're able to do with like psychic links and electrodes and the systems being hooked up. Just remind me of The Exorcist 2 because those experiments were just as bullshit as this one was.
Right.
And like as I said, Exorcist 2 vibes. I don't appreciate that very much. Why was she hooked up? Why was she angering him and she's telling the kid, I killed your mother. It was me. It was my fault. Haha. Just to make him angry. And then he has like psychic blasts and just a whole bunch of stuff. And like I said, they're able to communicate to each other telepathically. Both of them somehow. Like, why does the assistant have it? I don't know.
Never mentioned again or used again.
Right. And what's Sadako, what's going on with her? Is she vanquished? Are they safe? Because it didn't seem like they were in any real danger at all anyway in this entire movie. They were fine. They didn't watch the tapes to have anything affect them, so I don't know what happens to her at the end of this.
Yeah, who knows?
So, those are my low points. I'll go first for number of unlabeled VHS tapes out of 10. This one is definitely a nosedive. If this is the better one, I don't think I ever watched Spiral. I'd hate to see what that one looks like.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I mean, maybe because they filmed it back to back, maybe it follows the story a little better. I don't know.
I don't know. It feels like this is going to be like a case of The Exorcist Dominion versus, the prequel.
Yeah, the same screenplay got shot 2 different times.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, I can only hope it makes more sense, but that's probably hoping for too much.
So I will give this 5 unlabeled VHS tapes out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's right where I'm at. 5 unlabeled VHS subs out of 10. I mean, yeah, it's just a drop in quality, and it's just this like weird stuff happening that's not explained. Like, again, major characters killed off screen without even like a goodbye. I mean, it's a weird, bizarre story kind of tacked onto the end of the first one. At least it kind of sticks thematically to it. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are just taken to crazy town in this one. Not a huge fan.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you thought that one was weird, wait till the next one where they just go totally off the fucking rails. Like, I was like, okay, we'll get a prequel, right? We'll go back 30 years. We'll find out what made Sadako so weird.
No.
Is that what you assume so, right? No.
You assume so. So,
nope.
Yes. So Ring Zero, birthday came out a year later. And what's interesting.
Okay. Why birthday?
It's the birth of her evil entity, I guess. She's alive for 28 more years.
They don't say birthday ever. There's no like birthday thing happening. I was like, I was sitting here thinking, like, at the end of the film, I'm like, why the fuck did they call it birthday?
Yeah, and what's funny is, fun fact is, this is also known as Isola, and is the first live action thriller in Japan to earn 1 billion yen.
Is that like $100?
Yeah. Okay, so this is a pretty short one because not a lot happens. If you think, why does Carrie have her powers? This is the prequel to Carrie, essentially.
No. No, it's not. You don't find out anything about Carrie's powers. You find out more about why Carrie has her powers than you find about why she has her powers. They completely sidestep the whole explain the fucking, like, where this stuff came from. They don't even do that at all.
Yeah, it's essentially we're meeting her as a kid. Her mom already went through these trials, and she was there during those ESP experiments where mom was killed. And she goes, now like 19 or something, like, I'm an actor. I'm a stage actor. Cool.
Well, okay. Well, first, the movie starts out in the present time with the girl talking on the phone, who we're never introduced to. We have no connection to this person at all. And then we get a flashback from that person of a reporter asking questions about Sadako. And then we have another flashback, which then starts the story of what Sadako is doing. It's like, so we start the film with a double flashback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so essentially she's an understudy, and she kind of has a thing for people, and her person that she's replacing is very mean to her, so she psychically kills her because she has her ESP powers that she inherited from her mother, and people start getting rubbed the wrong way.
Well, okay, this one, they basically imply through the rest of the film that the mother never had the powers.
It was her.
It was her. She killed that reporter because he was being mean to her mom.
Yeah, who's part? Yeah, that you're right. And then she's investigating this troop and following her around and trying to get her revenge on her. And every time she like used her psychic powers on her person that she was that she replaced, the sound guy who was recording the stage play rehearsals for some reason.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what his job was too.
Like, I understand, like, if he was playing music for the play, that makes sense. Why is he recording it? I don't know. But he gets like that screeching. So essentially, the auditory version of the static on the VHS tape, for the most part. Like, that's weird. I said this is not a long thing. So essentially, we find out that through all this stuff, the wife of the guy who died during the ESP things is doing all this investigation and finds the doctor, the original doctor, and like, this long story short, there's two Sadakos, essentially, I guess. One evil that we're seeing kind of throughout as things are happening around the rehearsal and stuff like that. Like, we see Sadako as like the version that we see here in Ring 2, but she's also there as a normal person.
Right. Yeah, so they literally just say, oh yeah, at some point in time she's split in two. That's all the information you get. They don't elaborate on what the fuck that means. Like, how does a person separate into two completely separate beings and like somehow still like, nope, no explanation. You get nothing.
Yeah.
It's just, you're supposed to just accept that fact now and move forward.
Yeah. So there's suspicion rising. There's a lot of animosity towards the normal girl because, a couple of people have died. They're seeing these apparitions of future her because she's not dead technically for another 28 years. So I don't know how else to really say that. Essentially that people start dying in the troop. They like opening day of the play. They like start playing the correct from the ESP recordings, just trying to like break her mentally, which and kill her, which comes into like Carrie territory there, and to the point where they all kind of gang up there and start beating the shit out of her, try dropping lights on her, and they eventually make their way back to the cabin. Right?
Well, they do try to kill her, but the lights stuff happened because of her mind powers.
Yeah, correct. But eventually they try to go find the doctor who kind of caused all this, I guess. This is so bizarre.
Well,
I'm keep it all in my head.
I'm just, this is what I was very upset about in this. I'm sorry, I'm going to go into a little bit of my low points now, but the only thing that we knew from the first two films, right, is that, the mom was like some kind of psychic, right? And then she was like witch hunt and apparently killed. We don't get that information of what really happened to her. We just know that she kind of stopped raising the child, and the doctor, who was also the child's father, took her away from the island, went to the mainland, and then shortly after knocked her out and threw her in a well. And then build a house on top of the well.
Yeah.
That's the only information that we have. And somehow this movie, set during that time period, gives us like almost none of the fucking questions, answers none of the questions that we have. Like it gives you this like bizarre like second story on top of it that doesn't fucking go anywhere. And then it just like jumps to like the doctor literally doesn't show up until like the movie is like there's 15 minutes left.
Right.
So like the doctor, the one guy who like supposedly has the answers what's going on doesn't show up until like literally 15 minutes are left. And then all he tries to do is try to kill her. Yeah. That's basically it. He doesn't do anything else.
Yeah, and she eventually merges with her other half and becomes whole, and then just goes on a carry rampage, killing everyone in the acting troupe.
Right.
And then the doctor eventually shows up, hits her in the back of the head, buries her in the well, and she's clearly still alive and lives out her next 28 years in that well.
Apparently.
That's about it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird, bizarre twists and turns, but they don't make any fucking sense. They're not worth talking about.
It doesn't add anything to the movie.
No.
The love story that's going on there doesn't fucking matter.
No.
It's the long hair demon, essentially. And all I can say is we talk about this happens a lot in Ghosts. There's long hairs. Maybe they're afraid of their drains being clogged. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big Japanese scare thing. Yeah.
That's about it. It's all that to know why that she was evil, because people made her go psychotic. So you don't feel as sorry for her, I guess, anymore.
I guess. I don't know. I don't understand what this movie was doing.
No. That's my first thoughts. Like, this was I'll say it right now, unnecessary prequel.
Yeah. No, I would say there's a lot of like opportunity for the prequel to do some interesting stuff, and it did none of those things.
Right. This was not. Yeah. This prequel was unnecessary because it didn't do anything, as you said. Yeah.
Right.
I'll go with my highlights first. I mean, it's a bad ending. We know that she's gonna be alive in there for 28 years.
Right.
I said it's very, very Carrie-like. And it just is interesting that somehow she split off and one was like a baby living in the attic while she was continuing to grow normal.
The doctor has a passing thing, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Where he said like, oh, they split in half, so one of them I kept young with drugs. What? What is that? What do you mean you kept her young with drugs? That's not a thing you can do. There's so many things that supposedly happen in this film that make no sense.
Right. All this to say why she got hit in the head and thrown in the well. That's the entire purpose of this movie.
Like, there's so many interesting ways you could have gone, and like none of the like those things happened. Like it was just bizarre stories.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much my highlights. Why don't you go into yours?
I mean, I was kind of excited. Like, oh, we get the backstory. We finally get to find out what like Sadako was, and like as the movie went along, I'm like, ish. I guess backstory ish. Like we get kind of. We don't really get much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, I think this might be a possible Hellraiser syndrome. As I'm looking at this, because this fucking acting troupe and like, you know, like a kind of like a slasher killing the actors and the director and everything like one by one, because like, you know, the lead, the actress has a secret and she's trying to keep it. So she's killing people one by one. I think that was a separate fucking screenplay.
I mean, they had a different name for her in this movie too.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm thinking like, I think that was a separate fucking screenplay, because I think that whoever did this didn't have any ideas. Like they knew they had to like hit her in the head and drop her in a well, but they had no other idea, no other like ideas to fill in the time. So they just like grabbed somebody else's screenplay, because like it seems like the movie kind of moves fast, right? You know, like the whole acting troupe, and she's killing them one by one, and then all of a sudden they all find out about her and they all like do this witch hunt thing. And then she just gets like knocked out, and then they bring her to the doctor, And then like all hell breaks loose. She just kills everybody, and then she gets hit on the head and knocked into a well. Like it really feels like they just took another screenplay and then tacked on this weird ending on
it. There was a lot of production issues where people kept changing scripts, so that you're correct.
I mean, I was like, as I'm doing this, I'm like, this is two different screenplays. Like this is two different movies. This was another movie that they tacked Ring onto. I was like, I think this is a Hellraiser movie.
Yes, it's essentially reading right now. They said they wanted a story of a young girl who was being oppressed because she was different.
Okay, you could have told that story. What the fuck does this acting troupe have to do? And why is she like 20 years old for no reason?
Yeah,
it was very bizarre. Anyway, but that was my intake on everything. It was interesting also seeing like 70s Japan, right? Or like that was fun. That was good. That's all I got for high points.
Yeah, why don't you go in?
I'm gonna go to my low points. So the double flashback, like jumping all over the fucking place, like I don't know. They jump back and forth a whole bunch of times. And like I felt like they were gonna try to jump back to the other like flashback, but they never did. They just like brought the character from the other flashback into this story without flashing back again. I'm just like, okay, so these are like merged timelines. So like, what was the girl talking on the phone at the beginning about? Like, what was the point of that?
There wasn't one.
Yeah, I guess just to link it to like the time frame of the first two. I have no idea. And again, I'm like saying, like, at what point is this taking place? Like, we got the story that the movie told us that the doctor, who was also her dad, took her from the island because they were like, you know, thinking she was a witch or whatever, and then hid her. And then at some point hit her on the head and dropped her in a well. But like, she was supposedly a child at that point.
Young child, yeah.
Right. Like, that's all the imagery of her, like, again, well, in the first one was all her being a child. The second one, mostly being a child until they tell you that, oh, she was alive for 30 years in a well. And you're like, what? So she was like 40 years old when she died? Like, what are you talking about? That didn't make any sense. But anyway, like, it doesn't follow that timeline, and it doesn't tell you, like, when it's taking place. You get no clues. Other than, like, they tell you, this is Sadako's, here's her mind powers. I'm like, well, why the fuck is she in an acting troupe? Like, I thought she was supposed to be keeping a low profile because she was hiding. Like, she still has her same name, and she's in a fucking acting troupe. And then, like, everybody immediately hates her. Like a death happens, and they're all like, oh, it's that new bitch. Like, everyone hates her immediately, except for the one dude that's in love with her.
Yeah.
So bizarre. Anyway, I talked about all that kind of stuff. Yeah, again, the whole like, oh yeah, she's split in two. No further information, no explanation on what that means. And then we get a weird line of, oh yeah, so the other one I let go and just told her to go live her life, and the other one I kept young with drugs. Like, okay, if that doesn't sound like weird pedophilia, keeping a kid in a basement shit, I don't know what does. Like, no wonder that kid was murder, murder incarnate. Like, it sounded fucking weird. But then the doctor is just like tacked on at the very end. Like, he's barely in the movie, even though he's a major character in the first two. They talk about him a lot, and like, I think they talk about him overall less in this film that he's in than they do in the first two. And then it's just like, yeah, oh yeah, you killed everybody, so I have to kill you. And then he like hits her on the head and puts her in a well. That's it. Like, they had to like tie it back somehow, and that's what they did. It was very badly done. That's all I got.
So I was researching it. So this story is from it's based off of Lemonheart, which came from the book called Birthday. So they called it Birthday instead of Lemonheart.
Okay, why don't they explain that? Like, why just put a weird subtitle on a film that makes no sense?
I don't know, but yeah, I'm looking at this. He essentially, the sound guy essentially had an affair with Sadako. Clearly not a young child,
right?
But yeah, essentially she's reborn, and this turns into like, if we went really crazy, if they really followed the birthday part, there's clones and a Sudoku virus. So it's way weirder.
I don't know what the fuck. I was just so lost in this. I'm like, what? I don't know what the fuck. This movie has nothing to do with the other two. It's just a tacked on Again, it's like Hellraiser. How the movies were like
yeah.
nothing to do with Hellraiser, and all of a sudden Pinhead comes in at the end.
Yep. I think that's what all these stories in the book series exist. They're just tangentially Sadako.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll get to my low points. Like I said before, this was not needed as a movie. We could have had a much different movie. I don't think I'd want the clone virus with Sadako either. Is it just even more ESP bullshit and just weird that they just like, hey, you know what? We're gonna torture her because we hate you because you're weird. Okay. Yeah. Clearly she murdered her because of the scratchy sounds on the tape the guy's recording for some reason. So
yeah, I don't know. Why are you recording live theater?
I don't.
Yeah, it's like, didn't that kind of defeat the whole purpose of like people paying to come see live theater?
Mm-hmm. And I just think it's shitball move to do too. Like during opening night, you clearly don't care about your movie, your play troupe either. So
right, yeah. Oh, we killed the director, but let's do opening night anyway.
Yep. Sure. Why not? All right. So Salem, how many unlabeled VHS tapes out of 10 do you give Ring Zero Birthday from 2000?
I don't. I'm gonna say 1.75.
Yeah, there's this movie is not good. I was going down to the 2 for myself. Maybe there's a better version out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just they didn't do it the right way. There was a right way to do this that you could have told an interesting story about the sequel, right? As to why she is so messed up, why she's like killing people from like beyond the grave and shit, and like how her powers manifest, or why she's so sad or whatever. Nope. No, you don't get any of that.
No, you think her body being found would have been the end of the curse, but she's still killing because reasons. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we don't. This movie does not explain anything. It's a very badly tacked on. Somehow this exists in the same universe.
Yep. All right. Anything else to add for this episode?
No.
All right. Well, we return next week to go take a look, see what happens when the Ring franchise travels overseas with the American remake and its sequel, and even its own reboot. That's right. We're going to be doing The Ring 2, and Rings. I'm excited. I know you said you may have only seen one of these.
Well, I know I've seen the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've seen the second one. I know I have not seen that remake.
Yeah, because I think it does 2017.
Yeah, I know, because I don't even think I even knew it existed until we put it on the list. So I knew that. I'm pretty sure I knew that Ring had a sequel, but I don't think I watched it. I may have. It's one of those films I'll have to start watching it to know if I actually have or not. I know I've seen the first, but the second one, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning towards no, but we'll see.
Yeah, I watched the first one many times. Ring 2, maybe a handful of times. I think Rings maybe once. So I'm excited. All right. Well, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.